For every house is built by someone, but God is the builder of everything.
There is a long-standing debate between evolutionism and creationism. It is an issue that has divided Christians for a very long time, and has even turned some people away from God. Many people think that they have to choose one or the other, but Dr. April Maskiewicz thinks differently.
Dr. Maskiewicz is an associate professor of biology at Point Loma Nazarene University. She's a faculty advisor for the Science and Religion Club on campus. This year, she did a TEDx talk on faith and evolution that outlined her journey, bringing her faith and scientific knowledge to terms with one another. We had the chance to speak with her about the topic.
The relationship. I don't think there's necessarily an intrinsic relationship between Christian faith and evolution. I think if you hold a Christian faith, you can find a way to bridge. Evolution's science, and Christian faith is a belief system, and so I would say that the things I accept in science, like that photosynthesis occurs, it's not a belief. It's just an acceptance of sort of how nature works and how the world works. And believing in God is a belief. I don't have evidence for it. I can't prove it. There are no facts. So I see them as distinct, and I think that I can connect them together in my mind, or I see them relating and interconnecting in my mind because I am a Christian. I believe that God created. So how he created, who cares? The fact that he created is what really matters. That's a distinction I can say, well, you think he created this way, I think he created that way, but he created. So we can agree on that. And then so evolution then is just what I accept as the way God created all the biodiversity and the life on Earth. And it's okay if someone doesn't accept that as well. So that's how I see them relating or interconnecting. I think there are a couple of reasons why it's really hard for some particular Christian denominations and just some students. One, I think there's some fear. I think a lot of people are worried that if they learn about evolution and it seems really convincing, that means they have to give up their faith. Or they've been told from their upbringing that evolution and faith are not compatible and you have to pick one. It's black and white. So then if I start learning about evolution, it makes sense that I have to reject God. I mean, that's sort of the obvious, next step. So then it becomes this fear thing. So instead of actually looking at the evidence or thinking about it or wrestling with it, just kind of put up a wall. I'll take my notes in class and I'll answer the questions on my exam, but I don't want to go any deeper than that because that means I have to give up God. And so there's fear, but it's fear that comes from a misunderstanding because there are a lot of Christians that accept evolution and have a really strong, amazing faith in God. And so it's a lack of understanding that there's ways to reconcile it. There's a subset of Christians that believe that the words that are written in the Bible were written exactly the way God meant them to be, like that Genesis 1 and 2 and 3, that's a scientific textbook. And that there are other areas that are giving science information about how the sun and the moon and the planets and all interact. And from everything I've learned from people who study this for a living, theologians and biblical scholars, the Bible is not a scientific textbook. And it's not written as a scientific textbook, and it was written to a particular people at a particular time and not to give them science. And so I just think it's a misunderstanding. I don't think it's intentionally by most people mean or vindictive or naive or irrational. I think there's just fear and lack of understanding. I think Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 don't even match. So in Genesis 1, God created all little things, then he created Adam and Eve. In Genesis 2, he created the earth, and then he created Adam, and then he created all the animals. So I don't even know which one of those is right. Well, I first say the difference occurs in the Bible first. So I don't think I have to reconcile it because it's in disagreement in the Bible. But for me, it goes back to, did God have to create one way because Genesis was written that way? A deeper piece of that explanation would be that Genesis was written to a particular people. They had been living in a particular culture where there were multiple gods. There was a god of the sun, and god of the water, and god of the moon, and god of this, and god of that. And some of these gods were mean, some of these gods were nice, some of these gods were angry, some of these gods were happy. And that's one of the things, like Genesis 1 says, and God said it was good, and God said it was good. Genesis 1 really focuses on a monotheistic God, one God, in charge of everything. And he created everything that story's written in a particular way because these people were used to hearing a different story. It's okay that the science shows us this progressive pattern of evolution, and I mean progressive in the fact that there were single-celled organisms and multicellular organisms, and then very complex organisms like mammals, and then humans. I don't see that that really conflicts with anything that God might do, in that God is very orderly. Having precision and detail in this nice, beautiful evolutionary pattern over 3 billion years is beautiful. And it makes God's ability to organize and plan huge, way exceeding anything I could plan. I can't even plan a birthday party. You know what I mean? And he could plan 3 billion years of life evolving. And that's fascinating. So I personally think my perspective about accepting human evolution and evolution in general for all the diversity on Earth makes my God bigger. I think my God's really big. He's not trapped in a little box if he can only have done it this way. No, he could have gone life on Earth, or he could have done it through evolution, and I don't deny either way, but I accept the really complicated way, and it makes me go, wow. Yeah, I think we have to start with, what do you believe? You know what I mean? I think we have to start with going to people and just asking, what do you think? And why do you reject evolution? And how most people don't really have any idea what evolution is. They reject evolution because they heard they should. Or they'll say things like, we came from apes. Well, that's not what evolutionary biologists think. So half the time they don't even have the right information. They have huge misunderstandings. And then we have to talk about assumptions about the Bible. Do I think that God sat there and dictated word for word every single little thing in the Bible? Well, if he did, there wouldn't be conflicts like Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. So God inspired people to write the Bible, but humans actually put the words on the page, and therefore we see some conflicts. So I think first engaging in starting with the other. What do you think? Why do you think that? Why do you reject evolution? And then like kind of pulling that out, because sometimes that makes them have questions, and then they want to ask questions, and then you can answer questions. And so it's sort of being open to hearing what their concerns are. I think that's the best place to start, and that's where the dialogue needs to start. And then also multiple people sharing their multiple positions. Not a debate. I think that is the worst thing you can do. I think if you're all about winning the fight and winning somebody over, you're not listening, and it doesn't help. So why bother? It's like who you're going to vote for, and then people debate, and you're still going to vote for whoever you're going to vote for anyway. So debates are not very effective. Just you share your views, I'll share my views, I'll ask you questions, you ask me questions. That's the kind of dialogue that needs to happen. And allowing you to just be where you are, and you allowing me to be where I am, without judgment, without saying I'm going to hell because I accept evolution, which I've heard and people have told me. I have been yelled at. So that's the kind of dialogue that needs to be done. So in my old church, the pastor said I could lead a small group using a particular book I use in my class here called Origins. And we set up these tables outside of the church for small group sign-ups. It was going fine. Some people were like, oh wow, you're using that book. They thought I was going to do like a creationism small group until people come up to the table and realize it's not a creationism book. And this one lady just yelled at me. She's just really loud, belligerent. I'm promoting Satan's agenda. I shouldn't be allowed to do this small group. It was really interesting. I've had people tell me I'm not really a Christian. I've had people tell me when I'm more mature as a Christian, then I'll understand that I was wrong. And what I've gotten is a lack of love from a lot of Christians. I've gotten a lot of judgment. Here at Point Loma, it's been awesome. Very open dialogue, and very acknowledged that there's a lot of different positions that people hold for different reasons. Somebody can say, and I fully respect this position, I totally understand all the evolution, like somebody who studied it. There's even an evolutionary biologist, he's a PhD, and he's a creationism person, 6-day young earth creationism. And he's like, totally get all the evolution. I've decided to foreground the Bible and a very word for word exact interpretation of the Bible as foregrounding that. And so while I understand the evolution and I understand why you accept evolution, I'm deciding that the words in the Bible are more important. It's supposed to be a science book. You be where you're at and I'll be where I'm at. I respect that decision a ton, Because I'm saying I'm foregrounding the science. Not that the science is more important than the Bible, but I'm seeing the Bible and making assumptions about the Bible that are different, that it's not a scientific textbook. But I'm allowing him his view, and he's allowing me my view without saying, there's no evidence, evolution's wrong. Like, it's not about attacking the science, it's saying, I think eventually someday Christians will learn something about creation that will show that evolution may not be right. But he doesn't deny how we can come to the conclusions we're at. And that's a very respectful view of my position, and I can have a respectful view of his.
BBC released an article on how women are evolving to have narrower pelvises, therefore creating a greater need for cesarean sections.
Because we're bipedal and the way our hips are and the way we are bipedal, our birth canal is really narrow, and so it's a problem getting babies out. But we're one of very few species that actually need help in delivering. And there's a high death rate for women that don't have help in the delivery. So a woman trying to deliver completely alone. What does that say about our evolution? It says that there's cooperation. So at some point in the hominid species, and I don't know exactly where and when in time, but that cooperation to deliver was selected for. So in the small communities where they didn't cooperate and help each other, that wasn't selected for, that didn't get propagated. In populations where it did, those populations ended up having more babies, more people were staying alive, and that gene was passed on. And that gets a little bit at a characteristic of humans is cooperation is part of our, I would say, human nature. And we can use examples like that to talk about how that's been selected for cooperation, because it's sort of a necessity for keeping all the babies and the moms alive during childbirth. I think that we don't select against some particular types of diseases or genetic deficits. So for example, I'm missing an immunoglobulin and I can't fight off fungal infections. So I would be dead by now. I would have gotten a fungal infection that would have killed me. It would have gone to my brain and I'd be gone. So whether or not I would have lived long enough to have children and pass on that defect to them. But now there's medicine, and I'm perfectly normal, and you have no idea how this. I take a pill 3 days a week, and I'm fine. We are not in the normal pattern of natural selection because we don't allow disease or poor eyesight to select against us. I have terrible eyesight, but there's no chance a lion's going to kill me anytime soon. I have glasses or contacts, and I don't live in an environment where there are lions coming after me. We've sort of taken that natural selection piece out of the evolutionary process for humans. So what that means for the future, I have absolutely no idea. We still seem to have some sort of social or community evolution occurring. Like I said, with cooperation and that type of thing. I kind of wonder what the next 1,000 years has in store for us with the technological age. And maybe communicating without being face-to-face anymore, and how will that affect population growth and population numbers and that kind of thing. As far as ability to design our babies, ability to select for particular genes and stuff, it's pretty scary. So if you ask me, this baby has a genetic defect that will cause them to be really disadvantaged in life, or die young, or get in there and fix it. We can get in there and fix it. I want you to get in there and fix it. But at what point are we crossing the line and starting to have, I don't know if you've seen the movie Gattaca, but if you have not, you need to, but starting to select for making perfect individuals, or the smartest, the strongest, the prettiest, I think we're going to lose a lot of diversity in humanity if we start doing that. And it starts becoming the haves and have-nots, and starts dividing society, and so that's going to become huge cultural issues. So I sort of feel like when I think about evolution over the next 100 or 200 years, and you can't really talk about evolution in that small time frame when you're talking about humans, because we can only have like 3 or 4 generations in 100 years. Evolution as used in the terms of kind of cultural evolution or social evolution. It'd be interesting to see what technology and genetics starts doing for maybe your kids or your grandkids or your age. I have no idea. Should we? Probably. We should probably fix those things if we can. Just like I should get a polio vaccine, and you should too. But where do we stop? Do we stop when it comes to intelligence or eye color? I don't know who gets to decide that. I think that I will tell you a little bit about my goal here. I teach evolution. One of my courses is 211, which is evolution. And, my goal, and I think a lot of the professors in biology here's goal, is not for students to change their mind. Well, some do, and a lot of biology majors end up changing their mind by the time they're seniors. That's not my goal. Really, my goal here as a Christian that's a biology professor that teaches students evolution is for them to understand that there can be somebody like me and somebody like the other professors. That you can accept evolution and love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And that they don't have to be mutually exclusive. And if students can understand that and leave here with that, and the next generation of people, like when you guys have kids, when you guys go to church and you can raise them to not be judgmental about this issue, that's the goal for me.
With proper discussion, we can change the way that we talk about faith and evolution.
These might not have to be mutually exclusive.